June, the recording started. G'day, folks. We're back. It's 12:01 p.m. That's lunchtime, and it's Friday. That means it's Friday lunch and learn. We didn't have a session last week. Sorry about that. I needed a break. We did a lot of chat GPT and visualization and DNEB and all sorts of fun things, and we're going to do a bit of an extension on that today as well. But yeah, I needed a week off. But we're back. I just installed Bravo for Power BI. If you haven't seen Bravo before, this is an extension that is made by our Italian friends at SQL BI. And it's inside your Power BI desktop thingo-majiggo. It's pretty cool. I assume I just click this to make it work. I've literally only just installed it. I have played with it before, but it was a while ago. There's no active reports. Okay. I wanted to put Bravo because I'm doing DAX. I wanted to make sure I could do DAX formatting, and Bravo does DAX formatting because, you know, I write really messy DAX. I thought we would talk about DAX today because we haven't spoken about DAX. I don't know if we've ever spoken about DAX on Lunch and Learn, which seems weird. Wouldn't you think that someone who did Power BI Lunch and Learn would talk about DAX all the time? But no, I haven't spoken about DAX because I think everybody else talks about DAX. It's kind of unoriginal. But I think we should talk about DAX. Specifically, I wanted to solve a particular DAX problem. I've been saving it up. And I thought I'd take you through my process for solving DAX. And you know what? Get some feedback from you guys about how you solve these types of things, because I'm probably not the best at it, to be fair. Although I'm pretty handy at DAX. I got pretty good at it in my youth. When I first started Power BI, I went very hard on becoming as good at DAX as I possibly could. And so I've got a very good foundation. And obviously, when you build a lot of Power BI content, you write a lot of DAX. So I've got a pretty good foundation on how to do DAX, but I wouldn't say that I am and I'm no Marco Russo. I'll give you the tip. Anyway, so here we are. My favorite visual this week. No, my favorite visual of all time is the Melbourne weather visual that we built on DNEB. I love this visual. I think it's looking good. We've got our little raindrops. It's all interactive. It's beautiful. If you haven't seen this visual before, because you haven't seen the previous sessions, it's all one visual. Look, see, it's one visual. It's not multiple visuals put together. We just made one visual, and it's cool. It's made in DNEB. But there's a problem with this visual, and it's a problem that eats away at my soul every time I look at this visual and I click on one of these buttons. And the problem with this visual is this dark gray bar here that goes through the middle of the visual. The reason why this is a problem is that it changes. See how when I click it, it's different? It's not supposed to be different. It should be the same. So what this dark gray bar represents, so this light gray bar represents your all-time high and your all-time low. And then the dark blue bar is your temperature, or temperature high and low on that particular day. And the dark gray bar is your normal range. That's what it's supposed to be anyway, your normal range. And while we were making this visualization, I couldn't get it to work. So I cheaped out and I made it a moving average. So right now it's a 30-day moving average or something like that. I can't remember exactly what. We'll have a look at it in a sec. So it kind of works. So what it is actually I calculate the average, which would be a single line here, and then I do one standard deviation up, and that's the normal range upper, and then one standard deviation down, that's the normal range lower. So if it was the normal range, what I wanted to represent is how warm or cold it is normally at this time of year, right? And that's kind of the question. And if you're a statistics nerd and you know how to calculate the proper definition of what normal means in from a statistical sense, I'd like you to put it in the chat, because I probably can't tell you. Probably not properly anyway. I kind of know that's one way to calculate it, is get the average and then do a standard deviation up and down, and then that's your normal range, right? That makes sense to me. There's probably all sorts of other definitions of normal, and maybe there's a better way to do this. But my idea for calculating the normal range is, I think we need to do a little bit of visualization first to kind of figure out what this number looks like and why does it keep changing and why doesn't my DAX work and then we'll do a little bit of unpicking on how to write this DAX formula properly. Hopefully, I'll do it within the hour. I'll be embarrassed if it takes me more than an hour to write this DAX formula. But as we all know, I am no stranger to spending a whole week on a DAX formula. But it is, sometimes you just can't get it, you know, and it takes time. So we'll see if we get lucky or not. That is the plan today. We're going to write DAX. In the meantime, hopefully this will spawn a little bit of a conversation around DAX, what it is, how it works, how you should approach it when you've got a problem like I have right now with your DAX, and, you know, other ways that you can interact with DAX, and all sorts of other things. I've got the chat going on. I'm only on one screen today, so I'm going to have the chat going on my phone. Someone says, good luck, we believe in you. Thank you. It says unknown user on my phone. I don't know who said that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Welcome to everybody who I haven't said welcome to yet. We've got a few in the chat today. It's great. I was at the CDAO conference this week in Melbourne, just to digress slightly. And I got to meet a lot of people, came up to me, and they were like, some of your bosses and stuff. Like, people were coming up going, yeah, my team goes to the Friday Lunch and Learn, and thanks for that. It's really great. And everybody says, so I appreciate if you're out there and you told your boss, and then your team's coming to the Lunch and Learn, I really appreciate it, because that was really good to meet people that either come to these sessions or to hear feedback from like people's bosses who are like, yeah, we're really happy with this session. So invite your friends and your family and your boss. We really appreciate, I do appreciate that feedback. The fact that it's going back up to people like that's really cool. All right. I think I'll turn Steam off. That's probably a good idea. Never know. I'll turn off Discord too. Let me just quit some things. Where's Steam? Let's exit Steam, so we don't need the distractions. Bye, Steam. Okay, so let's have a look at our DAX formula. So right now we're looking at this upper and lower bar. So in our visualization, and the visualization, you just dump them all in, right? But it's this normal range max upper and normal range min lower. Let me get my zoom tool happening. Okay, we've got zoom it working, hopefully. There it is. Let me just check what my thing is. Control 1. Okay, control 1 is my zoom. So, control 1. There it is. So these two guys, normal range max upper, normal range min lower. So that is here in my thing. We go here and we have a look at normal range max upper. This is why we need to format our DAX, everybody, because look how horrible this is. Let me zoom in. And can I make this, yeah, a bit bigger? Now, can I open Bravo from here? Melbourne Weather Visual, formats DAX. Ooh. Max upper. Format. Preview. Can I just say tick format? Oh, can I tick all? Oh, format all. That's cool. Does that mean, oh my God, that's so good. I love Bravo. And also, don't tell me that that's not a kangaroo. I know it's supposed to be a dog, but come on, look at it. That's a kangaroo. I feel like this is an Australian tool. Wow. Okay. So Bravo just literally formatted all my lazy DAX. That's amazing. Okay. So we get, for our normal range max upper, we get the current month and the current day. This is part of what I was thinking. I'll get the current month and the current day, but ignore the year, right? And then I'll calculate the average, max, and the standard deviation. So that's the average, that's the standard deviation for the current day and the current month. And then it would work over the whole time. Doesn't work, it changes. It changes. So it's still not working. It looks like I'm not doing the maybe I am in average max or standard deviation max. We can have a look at those as well. But it looks like I'm not doing the moving average. I don't know where I landed on with this. Okay, so let's look at average max. average max gets the current date. It does do us. Here we go. Does a dates in period. So never noticed. I thought it was random blocks. Oh, really? Never saw it was a dog. Oh, wow. Working with DAX is not stressful at all. Exactly right. So it does do a 30-day moving average. There you go. There's the evidence. We're doing a dates in period, current date, minus 30 days. So a 30-day moving average for our average. So we're taking the average of the weather data value, where the measure equals max temperature, and we're doing it for the last 30 days. So this is what we need to fix. So what I was thinking, we'll do some visualization just to clarify this a little bit, because I know this is a little bit esoteric particularly if you're not particularly familiar with DAX and you can't visualize this in your brain. Mind getting old. Don't say that, Richard. All right. We need to, what I was thinking is, I want to know on a particular day. So let's say I'm on January the 1st. I want to know what was the temperature across all the January the 1sts. That will give me the average. Now, when I tried this in the past, this was still quite spiky. There was quite a lot of variance. So you'd have January the 1st and then the average of all January the 1sts. And then all the average of January the 2nds would be like quite a bit higher than all average of January's the 1sts. And that's, I don't know if that's just because of the nature of the data that we've got. It's a 20-year data range. You'd think there'd be enough for it to be quite smooth, but it's not. It's really spiky. It could be a problem with the DAX though, so we'll look into that. So what I was thinking, instead of doing that, I want to get the average of all January the 1sts and all the surrounding 3 or 4 days. So when I'm on January the 1st, I need to know the average of all January the 1st plus all January the 2nds plus all January the 3rds plus all the December 31sts plus all the December 30ths and maybe a couple of days. And then that will give me what temperature can I expect it to be around this time of year on this day. That's what I'm thinking. Does that make sense to everybody? Is there a better way to do it? Can someone please suggest a better way? But I think, well, it'll be interesting to build this DAX formula anyway, because I've never done one like that. So that is it's a moving average, but it's a surrounding average, like a surrounding moving. So you're doing the days before and the days after. And it's also ignores year as a filter, because you want to do it over all years. So if I were to articulate it in a way that I think makes sense for DAX, it's forget about year, give me the current month day plus the surrounding current month days, give me all of those numbers, and then average them all up. Is it possible? Who knows? Shirley says you need to extract MMDD from the date and group. Yes. Date, table, and values within the week number. Oh yeah, within the week number is interesting as well. So you could do it by week number. The reason why I don't want to do it by week number is because that's easier, but also, and I want to do this hard version, but also on a Monday, then you only get the week following, and I want to get the surrounding days, if that makes sense. So I want to know, or on Sunday even, on Sunday you would get Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, all the same days in that week number, but you wouldn't get the preceding Saturday or Friday. And so in my ideal scenario, I'd like to get the current day and the surrounding days, not necessarily the days in the week. So it is a true moving average, if you like.
Hey, Greg, just a quick question with the dates in period formula. So what's the minus 30 really doing? Like what kind of calculations are happening with the minus 30?
Yeah, sure. So dates in period is filtering our calendar date tables. So this is our calendar table, the date column. So the first thing you pass through to dates in period is a set of dates, right? To say, here's your set of dates that we're going to do this filter on.
Okay.
The next parameter is the start date. or the date from which you want to go. So I created a current date variable here that gives me the day right now. So if I'm here in the graph, I'm on the 31st of December. That's going to be returned here in current date, 31st of December.
Okay.
Then it says the number of intervals, right? So if I want to go backwards in time, I do it in a negative way. If I want to do forwards in time, I say positive. And so in this case, I want to go backwards 30, give me all of the dates in the previous 30 days from the current date in the context of what I'm looking at on the graph. So it'll be different here compared to over here, if you like, because when you're on one day, that current date value is going to change. So effectively, this minus 30 days says take the current date, then give me a table that returns all of the days from the previous 30 days from that current date. So that's what a negative 30 does. And then this is the interval type. So count 30 days, not 30 months or 30 years, right? And so it returns that table as a filter, and then we use that filter to filter out our calendar table to then calculate our average temperature, which is what this calculate piece is doing. So that's what it does. So this year, minus 30 gives us the previous 30 days to the current date.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that, Greg.
That's okay. Shirley says, do we need a column to know the previous day, or can we add a clause in the DAX to wrap around the first for the 364, 360? Yeah. I think, we have to think about that. And I think we'll need to use time intelligence like dates in period or dates between to capture that crossover from one to the other. I have to think a bit more about that. That will handle February 29, for example. Isn't your current date based on the max date in the entire data set rather than what you're focused on? Yeah, so this is why I have this current date sitting out here in the in this variable. It's not based on the entire data set, although if I were to calculate, this is the calculate the max calendar date in the current filter context. Hopefully that makes sense for people who have been doing DAX for a bit. So in any DAX formula, you're going to have what's the current filter context. And by the current filter context, we mean, so there's a filter here, 2012. And then on this graph itself, each one of these columns is a filter. So the max date in the current filter context, when I'm on this particular column, is August the 17th or wherever I am here. So that means the max date is going to be August the 17th, because this date comes from the calendar table. It's the calendar date. It doesn't come from the fact table. So I'm filtering the calendar and I'm using max date for the current filter context. Hopefully I explained that right. But if I were to just do a max calendar date and not have any filters, then yes, it would be the max calendar date of the whole data set.
Sorry, Greg, just a quick question around that. So when we do when we select the calendar date, is it like in the date, month, year format, or is it just the date that is selected? And what does max do to it?
Yeah, so we need to provide an aggregation. So the reason why we want the max calendar date is because we want the most recent date in the set. So often that will be it'll be a set of one day, particularly when we're on a single column of this table, for example. It's only the filter context is one day, and so the max is just the one day that it returns. But you still need to provide an aggregation to return a scalar value of a date, and the date will be in just a date format. So just it'll be it'll actually be an integer representing a date, which is how Power BI sees it in the back end. But it'll be presented in that DDM and YY or whatever you've got it set to. Stephen says your Jan 1st value will be only for one day because of your year filter. That is true. So maybe I need to think about how that year filter, if my Jan 1st value is only one day. But if I'm doing surrounding values, I'll at least get Jan 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. But yeah, I won't get the December because I've got to filter potentially on year. We have to think about how we solve that. See how complicated DAX gets when you start thinking about it, man. All right. Okay. So we've got a pretty kind of complicated Pretty kind of complicated calculation to try and figure out. There's questions about whether could use a windowing function like offset. Potentially, I hadn't thought about using offset. I'd have to think about it. Maybe we could use a windowing function. Simon says, can you use current date minus 1 plus 3 days to get each side? Yeah, there's different time intelligence functions that we can potentially use. What this one, dates in period, gives you can move it one way or the other, so a minus or a plus, but there's actually dates between as well, so that you set a start date and an end date, and maybe we could do it like that. So you do current date minus 3, current date plus 3 type things. So maybe we could change our thinking. I'd be really interested to experiment with using offset as an idea. I also want to try and use Copilot. I didn't mention that yet, did I? And this is where things could get really horrible. All right. So let's systematically go through this process, because this is the best way to solve hard DAX issues. Is don't rush into it. Start getting the components of the thing that you're trying to solve down first, and then move on to the next thing. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is resolve this filter of the calendar to return the dates that I'm looking at in any current date filter context. So let's have a look on the new visual. It's kind of what I mean. So I've got a bunch of calendar dates here, all the way from 1999 all the way up. I'll increase the grid size here a bit. I think if I type global font size, yeah, okay. Okay, big list of dates. So the first thing I want to do is return a calendar. If I select a date, it returns a calendar, so which is our current date variable. It returns a table of the surrounding days. That's my first challenge, and probably the only challenge. The rest is kind of easy. So, but this is the hard bit. If you're still relatively new to DAX, a DAX formula can pretty much only return 2 types of things. It can return a scalar value, like a number, for example, or it can return a table. And in this case, I want to build the first part of my formula is something that returns a table of calendar dates. So we'll play around a little bit with trying to get that working. The way that I do this is I like literally generate tables using a create a DAX. I don't know how to do this in the new UI. What do you mean? Okay, enter data, transform data. No, modeling, new table here. This type of thing, because then I get feedback, instant feedback on whether I'm getting my filtering right. So this is a good trick if you're struggling with say a table function. Say you're struggling with a filter in a calculate, and you're wondering if that filter is even working. You can generate it as a new table and see if it's returning the set of values that you need. I use this all the time when I'm trying to unpick different calculations. So let's try and do something. So the first thing I want to do is create a new table function, and I want to filter the calendar in the way that I want it to do it. And I'm going to hard code in a date. So we'll just start with so we'll call this filtered calendar. Okay. So let's filter the calendar. Let's first create a variable, that is our date, current date. And then we'll pass in a value, which will be, let's say, I want to do middle of the year first, and then we'll solve for the edge of the year. So let's just go first, let's go 15th of, what's the date today? 08/09/ but we can't do 2023 because we don't have numbers in that data set. So we'll say 2015. So it's just a random date in the middle of our data set. Calendar where, so if we just clarify that this is going to work, we'll say calendar date. Oh, I've got to return. Sorry. Filter calendar where the date, I hate writing the word date because it's always at the bottom, equals the current date. So that's the simplest possible version of our calculation, right? This should return a table with a single row. Date versus text. I probably should actually make this a date. So I could use date from or whatever to, can you do, is date from a thing? No. We'll just use date and then we'll put in the values instead of having it. So it's complaining saying that I'm trying to compare text to a date in case you didn't catch that error message. Okay, so 2015 0908. So I have to make it a proper date value, otherwise I'm not happy. Okay, so if I have a look here in table view now, and I look at my filtered calendar table, which is the table I've generated, I get a single row, which is filtered to this single date. And actually, I only want the calendar date column, but we can focus on that later. Okay, so we could do this again with a different type of table function, right? Let's have a look at our dates in period. So dates in period, you've got to send it some dates, calendar date. Got to give it a start date, which is our current date. We've got to give it a number of intervals, let's say -3, and we use day as our interval. So this is exactly what we were just talking about before. I'll zoom in a bit so you can see that properly. So we set our current date first, and then we use this dates in period function. This dates in period function is a table function. It'll return a table. So just like it does in calculate. And so it should just return me a table with now the calendar dates and the three days surrounding. And so when you look at the output, now we only get one column in our table that's been calculated, just the date column, and it's got just the 3 dates we were talking about. So we're close. We've got 3 days on the current year in the current day, but we don't want that. We want the 3 days after, the 3 days before, and all years. So we need to try and figure out how to do that. And this is where I start making it up as I go along. Current date +3 -6. Current date. Oh, you think, oh, interesting idea. Let's do that. So David suggested, let's do current date +3 and then -6 like this. So now when I I get my current date is the 8th. We iterate forward 3 to get to the 11th, right? Because we go 1, 2, 3 to get to the 11th, and then we go, so that's our current date +3, and then we go back 6 days to capture all of the days around, -7. Oh yeah, because we only have, yeah, because we want to get the 3 before and the 3 after. Yeah, you're right. Man, you guys are better than ChatGPT. All right. Okay, so that works. But that's only 2015, right? So now we have to figure out a filter that's going to give us our current date +3 -7, but ignore the years. And it's probably not as straightforward as we think. Because you can't say, because current date is 2015, right? So what we have to do is get this day-month pair. I'm open to ideas here. If you've got clever ideas, put them in the chat. But here's what I'm thinking. We get our day-month pair, so we get the 5th. So now we can't use dates in period either, which is very annoying. Maybe we get the dates in period first, and then we extract the day month combination from the dates in period, and then we get the rest. Well, I don't know.
You could also, instead of extracting day and month, you could also get a day of year.
Day of year is good, because then you go +6, +3 -7 again. You could use the same kind of logic, couldn't you? Interesting. So do I have day of year in my calendar? That's the first piece. Probably do. I do. Look up. Here's one I calculated for you earlier. All right. So I've added day of year as a calculated column. I think I went down this path when I was trying to do this, and then I'm like, nah, I'm going to save it for lunch alone. Okay. So we've got a day of year. So now when we think about our filter, we want to return everything that matches the day of year for the current day. And then we want to match everything that matches the day of year for the surrounding current dates.
You can use what you've got. So from that table, you need to figure out your max date and your min date that you've got in that table. So you can either do that as two variables, being current date plus and current date minus. You then need to, for those, do a lookup or related to the date table to figure out what day of year those are. And then that gives you a min and max range to filter the date table day of year column. And that will get you those days of the year for every year. So if those come back as being, I don't know, days 200 and through to 206, you then filter the date table where day of year is between 200 and 206. And so that will pull back all the years. All the years,
because you're only filtering on day of year.
Yep. You just have to write a special case to handle when you're wrapping around years, because otherwise your max and mins are going to go screwy.
Yeah. Let's follow your thinking there and create a little example. So if we go var max day of year equals 200, and var min day of year equals, let's say, 190. So we get 10 values. Return, calculate. We just do a greater than less than, don't we? Do we need to do calculate? Maybe we can just do a filter. I think we can just do a filter. Calculate doesn't return a table anyway. Only calculate table does. All right, filter, calendar, where day of year. Why is it not giving me? Oh, because it's annoying. Yep. Calendar day of year is less than or equal to max day of year. And is it and or?
And, yeah.
Calendar day of year. Maybe I could put it as a separate filter. I don't think I need this boolean, do I? So I think I can just do it this way. All right, is greater than or equal to in day of year. Why is it complaining? Did I do some weird syntax while I was mucking around there? Okay, maybe it does need to be and. Ooh, how many records have I got? 231.
Sort them by date order.
Yeah, sounds right. Sounds about right.
No, don't sort them by sort them by day of year. Will show you which years you're looking at.
I'm just saying that I've got from 200 at the bottom, all the way down to, I said 190, didn't I? Yeah, 190. So these values, if I filtered based on this filter, I would get the series of values I'm looking at. I'm right for that max and min day of year.
You just have to relate it back to your temperatures table.
Yeah.
And take the average, yes.
Cool. Okay, a couple of questions. Sorry, I missed the start. What are we trying to compute? That's probably take too long to explain, but you'll get it in a sec. Will it fluctuate for leap years? I've got the
no, because we're using day of year.
Day of year doesn't matter. Interesting question though. As per my understanding, we're trying to calculate. Someone's explaining what we're doing. Yeah, a few days around a particular date. Yeah, something related to the weather called forecast visualization. Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm trying to find what is the temperature around this time of year, and I want to do that by calculating the temperature on the surrounding days of that day. And so we've selected a day to be the X number day of year. And then we're going to use this type of filter to get the surrounding days. So to expand this out again, if we set our day of year, so create a var called day of year equals, let's say, in this case, it's 205. And max day of year equals day of year plus. We'll say 4 days, and min day of year equals day of year minus days. I guess we could create a variable for offset and say, then we can make it variable, but min day of year equals that's all right. So now we've got 201 through to 209. If I set my day of year to be 150 and recalculate, I get a table that is all of the days 150 for the last 20 years, all of the days 151 for the last 20 years. That's what I want. Okay, so that filters the calendar based on a day of year value. So I can pass through the day of year value to get the calendar. Okay. First piece, kind of working, almost working. So we just need to get this now working within the context of our calculation. All right. So now what do we want to do? We probably just want to return the calendar date column, but let me think about that. So now I've got something.
The way I generally do it is I put what you've got here into like a filtered table variable. So like summarize, and then I'd add columns into it with the temperature value that I want.
Oh yeah, summarize, and then I see what you're saying. Yeah, we could do it that way. People are asking me to format. Okay, I'll format. Shift return. Sorry, everybody. And yes, I will indent when I get oops at some point. Oh, I'm not very good at formatting, am I? Shift tab? No. But you can tell I never do it. I just use DAX formatter. Wait, if I save this, will Bravo see it? Filtered calendar? Or maybe I can't format. I can only format measures, not tables. Is there a reason why you're not using average X over the dates from the table you just created? Yeah, so this is exactly where we're up to, Kirsty. We're starting to get into actually what we want to calculate. First, I was focusing on the filter to make sure that we could get the surrounding filter days. So we've got an idea of kind of how we're going to approach that. So now we want to do an average X. So we probably want to do like a summarize columns with an average X and a thingo and a this and a that. Let's think about that. All right. So Oh, I don't want this measure to be in the calendar. So this is going to be our average, what is it, surrounding days? No, what do I want to call this? Our normal temperature, which is the average of the surrounding days. I'm going to put that in just to remind myself. Right. So if we're summarizing our calendar table first. Oh, that's not right. Calendar day. Let's create our variable for our we'll hard code it for now. So we'll say our start current date we're using, won't we? Okay. Our current date equals 150. And then var max date equals current date plus the offset, which we'll just make 4. Min date equals current date minus 4 turn. Look at that, formatted, everybody. Well done. Okay. So now I've got a current date, which is just a day of the year. I've got a max date and a min date. I'm summarizing the calendar date column. I want to put in a filter now for this filter calendar, which we already did. So if we go back and have a look at our little filter, that'll break that measure, but we don't worry about it. So we use this filter to generate that. God, that's so poorly formatted. I feel bad even copying and pasting it. Where was that? Normal temperature. That's not quite happening yet. It's a shame, or maybe I just have to zoom out a bit. There we go. Max date. End date. I can format DAX. All right. We're filtering the calendar to do that. Will that work? Surely that'll work. And then we give it a name. That's right. Average temp. So we want to calculate it over that. Maybe we could do the summarize columns as a table function first. Let me just chill on this for a sec. I just want to do it a bit more iteratively. I don't want to do a tutorial where I calculate the whole owl. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's drawing tutorials where they get you to draw a circle and then 2 triangles on top of the circle and then another circle. And then the next instruction, there's just like a picture of an owl and you don't know how you went from 2 circles to an owl. I'm trying not to do that. And I feel like we're straying into those territories. So let me back up a bit. Let me do this summarize columns first as a table function, and then we'll get into this thing. So let's go back to our filtered calendar, which is our table function that we used before. I could have kept those variables, I guess. Didn't I copy the variables? I thought I did. All right. So max date, day of year, and min day of year. And then, oh, does that return something? It does. So now we get exactly what we were after. So now we're getting a single date column. I don't know if you can see. So I haven't put any calculations into our summarized columns, haven't added any numbers, but we do have now a table with the correct dates in it as a single column. So that's nice. Drawowl.jpg, there you go. All right. So what we've done is effectively taken that logic and turned it into a calculation that just returns that single date column, which we kind of need to do the next bit. So we can expand on this by adding in a calculation, right? So to add a calculation into our summarized columns, we'll say we'll get the value of date, the temperature. Guess it's max temperature. And then we put in the calculation for the max temperature, which is the, I guess we could put in one of these ones. Let's just do average for now. We have to calculate the average, damn it. Average value. This is because of the structure of the data. I've got a measure column. It's called measure. Oh, it's called measure. Oh, got to close the bracket. Ooh. There we go, where the data measure equals that's 10. I think that's right. See what happens. It's not right. Where's it? So what's happening? It's returning 0 down the bottom here because this isn't actually the name of the measure, and so there's no rows being returned. So let me just figure out what that is. The measure is called max base temp, not max temp. Okay. Filtered calendar, max base temp. And I will explain this in a sec. Okay, here we go. 13.1. I think it doesn't matter what this aggregation is. I know I used average. This could be max. I think you'll get the same value because it's only returning it for one value. Or maybe it isn't. Are we getting multiple values for this for each row? I didn't think we would be. Maybe that just swapped because it does that weird sorting thing when you do calculations. All right, let me try and explain this. So we're calculating. Everyone knows how to use calculate, right? Okay, so you saw what the summarized columns does. It generates this list of values. And now what I want to do is just show the max temperature value for that corresponding date. And so I'm using calculate the max weather value. Now, summarize should take care of the filter context, like the row context here, but maybe it's not. I have to think about that a little bit more. Probably is okay. That should be right. Let's do some tests. So on the 3rd of the 6th, 2019, the maximum temperature was 10.1. So now let's just go and have a look at our weather data and see if that was right. 03, 06, 2019, 03, 06, 2019. Well, look at these date filters, 1906. What? Why do I have so much data here? Okay. Equals. 03/06, 2019. 03, well, we just choose it. 2019. We said 06, which is June 03/06, 2019. Value is 10.1. All right. Whew. I'm going to assume everything else is correct because that one random number was correct. Yeah, 306 all years. So this is what we're getting to. So, oops, back here. So what we should see, and I can't get this, I'll just click this up button, is that we get 03/06, 2019, 03/06, 2018, 03/06, 2017, etc., etc. So we still haven't got, because I've gone back to date, I still don't have the date. I actually shouldn't be summarizing by date. I should be summarizing by day of year. So that's my problem there. And exactly this type of thing is why I use calculated tables here when I'm trying to figure out this DAX, because that would be so easy to overlook, where I'm like, oh, you know, it's so easy to overlook that you're still in date mode, but you actually need to be in day of year, so that you want these things to aggregate, right? And that's when this aggregation will actually be an issue. We do need it to be the average of those values. So I'm going to change it back to average. Well, let's leave it at max and see what happens, and then we'll change it back to average. But instead of calendar date here, I don't want this to be date. I want it to be day of year. So what I want it to do, so summarize columns, if you're not familiar with it, is a group by, same as group by sort of thing. So you're going to group your calendar day of years by, first we're going to filter. We're added in this filter in the middle. This is this filter thing that we're filtering it out. And then we want to, this calculation is going to be your aggregation in your group by, right? And so currently it's at average. Let's change it back to average. And I'm not using Copilot at all. I realize this, but this is more fun to do it the manual way. Ooh, day of year. Okay, we got it. It swapped the columns around and it confused me. But now we've got it says max temp because I didn't change the name of it. Let me change this. And then it changed them again. So now we've got our X number of days of years. Now, if we sort this ascending, 150 should be in the middle, right? Yay. And now we've got the average temperature across each of the days. So this is all years. So that's the average for all years. And then we were looking to get the average across all of these numbers as well to give us the average of the averages. Is that bad practice to do an average of averages? I feel like that's bad practice. Is there a better way to do this, people? But at least it kind of does what I'm hoping to do, which is gives me the normal kind of number, right? You can see these are all very close numbers, but the average of all years is quite spiky. If we visualize this, we'll visualize our filtered calendar. We want day of year not to be, don't summarize day of year. Okay.
Well, you can get the sum of all the temperatures and you can get the count of all the days and divide it.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, isn't it? That would be theoretically better.
But I think this is fine.
I think it's going to be fine. Can't you average X over the, it'll give us the same result. What we need is a filtered table with, we could average X by the day of year. Maybe we could do like a weird thing. It's still about giving us all the values and all the, yeah, I have to think a little bit more about how that filter might work, but we might run out of time because it has already taken us. Yes, it's bad, says Richard. Yeah, I agree. Then you don't need to add a column and average it again. The adding the column and averaging it is for demonstration purposes. I think we'll probably refine this back down to an average X at some point, Kirsty. Do you want a single average or a min max band for each day month? Yeah, so this now I'm starting to think about that. What I'm trying to do is get to that single normal thing, and then I'm going to use a and then I'm going to do a min max on top of that. That was what I was hoping to do. But we've got max temp and min temp. It's not like we have temp. So I think we need a normal range upper, and so we've got a normal range upper and a normal range lower. And so, yeah, it takes a lot of thinking. Summarize columns with the static value in column 1, maybe. Yeah. All right, I think we're close and we're going to run out of time. So I'm going to implement this version of it, and then we'll and then I'll think a bit more about it. I feel like we've iterated to somewhere good, but yeah, it's probably not quite perfect. But it does kind of what I want it to do. So we've got our day of year, our surrounding day of year. If I pass in a day of year, it's going to give me the surrounding temperatures for those days of year, and then I should, yes, so this should be all the surrounding temperatures, shouldn't it? Just not for all years. So maybe my summarized column should include the year as a column, and then I can average is, it's kind of feel like I'm summarizing again. So much thinking. So if I set this to, so yeah, that's, so this 1508, this value at the bottom is kind of the calculation I'm doing, that I'm thinking about doing, because it's getting the averages across all years and then taking the average of the values across the surrounding days for all years to give me this 1508. So my normal max temperature at this time of year on day 150 is 1508. That's what I'm getting to, right? And then my normal lower band will be another number. And then they will be the grey bar on my fancy visualization here. So I'm trying to get this to be normal upper and normal lower. Normal range high, normal range low. Feels wrong. Feels wrong, but we're going to persist. All right. We're close. The problem isn't with DAX, it's with my logic. All right. So let me get this last little bit working, which is to give me my, so I want to get 1508 value. So just for illustration purposes, if I send it day 150, I should get 1508 back as a value, theoretically, if it follows this same logic. Okay, so that's a scalar value. That means we do need to make a measure now, not a table, to make that work. All right, so we want to take all of this calculation and then optimize it into something that returns a scalar value, and then it gives us the ability to pass in the current day. So let's start our measure out. Normal max equals bar current date. So just do the standard current date pattern equals max current date or max calendar date. That gives us the current date in the current filter context of the calendar. I'll format it for all you formatting people. Wait, when you do bars, do you do it like that? No, let's do that, surely. Maybe that should be like that. Return. Okay. So we want to calculate well, actually, just do average X. Average X over that table we created. Which we could just use filtered calendar for now, I guess. That would be the cheap way. No, it needs to be dynamic. We can't use filtered calendar. That's only going to give us a single table. Okay, so need to do that whole calculation inside this average X. Oh, add columns. Why does it always summarize? So let's go and get that average X. This will be broken. We need to go and get our summarized columns, and we don't want to retype all of this stuff. I will need my var max day of year, min day of year, I think. We'll calculate that. Yeah, I see what we want. Remember what I'm doing. Okay. Oops. Okay, where's my calculation? That's broken. So my summarized columns calculation is going in here. That's my table calculation. Oh, we've got 2 summarized columns in it. That's bad. Comma, and then the expression will be the average of the max tenth. How am I going for time? I'm just going to have to do this as this version. We can talk about it later. You're going to give me the measure average tenth. And I can put in ABD 10. There it is, but oh no. But I can do this. Whereas, can I not reference this column? I thought I could in the summarized columns when I'm doing a calculation. Okay, worry about that in a sec. All right. Maybe I will need my best friend after all. Max day of year, min day of year. Equals. Oh, maybe I'll just make this the max day of the year, not the max. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Promise. Equals current day. Plus 4. Minus 4. Okay, they should work. So then maybe I can't reference it. Maybe I can't reference this column inside an average X. Surely I can. Maybe I'll just put it in and see if I can get it to work. There it is. I knew I could. All right. Format. So if I put in calendar day of year as a table, and that was the average of the surrounding days. Wah, wah. Is that the right one? Oh, did not. That's a different calculation. Normal max. Well, oh, I can't use summarized columns like this. This is one of those cases. I may have failed, people. We might need to revisit this at some point. I'll come back to you with a solution next week because I'm out of time and my script's not working. But I think we almost got there. We got really close. Yeah, because I have to look into why summarized columns doesn't work here. Hashtag DAX life. I told you we might fail at the beginning of this thing, and it could take me a week to figure this out, and it probably will. And I think we've got a logical problem anyway, right? Because we're doing this average of averages, and that doesn't quite work. Well, I would rather, and what my original plan was to is to get all of the values, like Michael said, get all the values down into a table, and then average up all those values. Average X over, iterate over it with an average X and value, and do it that way. So I have to think about that. We're pretty close though. We're probably maybe closer than you think, but yeah. Staring at the ceiling with arms crossed. Oh yeah, 100%. Hashtag DAX life. This is why I don't do DAX content. Because I like to wing it, and I can't wing it with DAX. I have to think about it. Anyway, that's it. We're pretty close. Let's review where we got up to. So we figured out that we do need to use the day of the year. That's right. We can go max date and min date by doing a +4 and -4 on that. So that works. So the last piece is just filtering, getting that filter table down to a point where it's filtering down those values and then running that average X over those values to give us the average temperature around this time of year, if you like. The average temperature around this time of year, which will be the new name of the measure. So I will go away and do some homework. I'll figure out how that's done, and I'll ask my friend ChatGPT to give me some suggestions, and then we'll come back next week and we'll solve this and we'll dominate the DAX world. Calculate table potentially, my friend, potentially. But we're out of time. We have to go back to our normal lives now, and probably maybe you guys are doing this in your normal lives as well. But it'll be. I'm looking forward to solving this one because we don't create these problems without solving them. So hopefully we'll get there. But yeah, thanks very much. It's great to see you all. Thanks for participating. We will we'll be back next week to do some more DAX, and then we'll use some AI to help us build DAX. We'll see how much faster it is at getting a solution to the same problem. Maybe will it get there? I don't think it. Maybe it will. I don't know. It always surprises me. Unexpected error. All right, keep your secrets. Exactly. Thanks, guys. It's great to see you. And yeah, we'll do. I'll hang around a bit for a chat. But I'm going to turn off the old recording now. So yeah, we'll see you next week if you're on the YouTubes.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.